Marcus grew up in a neighborhood where hope seemed like a distant dream, a fragile thing almost impossible to grasp. The streets he walked every day were filled with reminders of what he lacked: broken homes, missed opportunities, and the constant hum of struggle. His childhood wasn't one of innocence or carefree joy. Instead, it was marked by hardship. His mother worked multiple jobs to keep the family afloat, while his father was often absent, lost in his own battles with addiction. From an early age, Marcus learned that life wasn't fair, and that survival meant enduring pain silently. School was a daily challenge, not because he lacked intelligence or curiosity, but because the weight of his reality drained his spirit before the day even began. His grades slipped, friends came and went, and the streets seemed to whisper that he was destined for the same cycle of despair. At 18, the world seemed to close in on Marcus like never before. The illness that had slowly claimed his mother finally took her away, leaving a void so large it swallowed his hope whole. His father's disappearance after that left Marcus utterly alone, standing on the edge of a future that felt empty and meaningless. The pain was suffocating, a storm raging inside him with no sign of calm. Days blurred into nights as he drifted through life, barely holding on. The neighborhood he once knew so well now felt like a cage, and Marcus was trapped inside with nothing but his hurt and anger for company. One night, in the quiet solitude of his small, rundown apartment, Marcus faced himself for the first time. The cracked mirror on the wall reflected a young man who was broken, tired, and ready to give up. The reflection stared back with eyes full of sorrow and defeat. He saw the weight of his losses, the scars left by years of neglect, and the shadows of dreams abandoned. The moment was raw and painful, but it was also a turning point. Somewhere deep inside, beneath the layers of grief and self-doubt, a small flicker of something else began to glow, a faint but persistent spark of hope. It whispered that his story didn't have to end in despair, that he could fight to change his fate. Pain had shaped Marcus's past, but he realized it didn't have to define his future. He understood that if he wanted a different life, he would have to build it himself, brick by brick, with the tools of discipline and determination. The road ahead was daunting. It meant facing his fears, breaking free from old habits, and committing to a new kind of struggle, one that required relentless effort, patience, and sacrifice. Marcus made a choice that night. He chose to stop running from his pain and instead use it as the foundation to build something stronger. The boy who once felt powerless was ready to fight, to rise, and to become more than his circumstances. That decision marked the beginning of a journey that would transform every part of his being. Marcus didn't have all the answers, but he knew the first step was to show up each day with purpose, no matter how small the progress. The pain that once crippled him now became a fuel for his ambition. The journey wouldn't be easy. There would be setbacks, moments of doubt, and times when giving up seemed like the only option. But the moment he decided to face his pain head-on, Marcus unlocked a resilience he never knew he possessed. He was broken, yes, but in that brokenness, something powerful was being born: a resolve to take control of his life and rewrite his story. Marcus's transformation didn't happen overnight. After that moment of clarity in his small apartment, he realized that changing his life meant embracing discipline in every aspect, even when it was hard, boring, or painful. Discipline became the bridge between the painful past he wanted to leave behind and the future he was determined to build. But the first steps were the toughest. The old habits that once offered comfort in chaos now needed to be replaced by routines that demanded consistency and sacrifice. Every morning, Marcus forced himself out of bed before sunrise, despite the exhaustion that weighed on his body and mind. He started small, reading a book, writing down his goals, looking for opportunities, but each day, those small actions piled up like bricks, forming a strong foundation. He enrolled in community college, despite the fear that he might not be good enough or that he would fail. The classrooms were intimidating. Many of his classmates came from backgrounds very different from his. But Marcus reminded himself that discipline meant showing up even when he didn't feel like it. He spent countless nights juggling factory shifts and homework, often falling asleep with textbooks open on his lap. The pain of physical exhaustion was constant, but it was nothing compared to the exhaustion of his old life, the fatigue of hopelessness. With every assignment completed and every shift worked, he was slowly reclaiming control over his destiny. The discipline Marcus cultivated wasn't just about work and study. It extended into his mental and emotional world. He learned to control the negative voices that once dominated his thoughts, replacing them with affirmations of purpose and strength. Meditation, something he had never tried before, became a tool to quiet his restless mind and refocus his energy. Physical exercise, once a distant idea, turned into a daily habit. Running through the early morning streets, Marcus felt the tension in his body ease and his spirit lift. Each drop of sweat was a reminder that he was breaking free from the chains of his past. Setbacks came regularly. There were exams he failed, opportunities that slipped through his fingers, and moments when the weight of responsibility threatened to crush him. But Marcus had learned to see failure differently, no longer as a sign of defeat, but as a necessary part of growth. Each disappointment was a lesson disguised as pain, a chance to recalibrate and push harder. Discipline became his shield against despair. When the temptation to quit whispered in his ear, he leaned on his routines and the vision of a better future. He surrounded himself with people who believed in progress and purpose, cutting ties with those who dragged him back into old patterns. As months turned into years, Marcus's mindset evolved. The boy who once viewed pain as a curse now saw it as a teacher. He understood that discipline wasn't about perfection or punishment. It was about respect for himself and his dreams. It was the daily choice to show up and give his best, even when the results weren't immediate. This mindset carried him through long nights and difficult decisions, fueling a relentless pursuit of growth. Marcus discovered that true discipline is a form of self-love, the commitment to becoming the person he needed when no one else would. The change was not just external. Marcus felt a shift within, a growing confidence rooted in earned success rather than luck or chance. His resilience grew, and so did his ability to manage stress and setbacks without losing sight of his goals. What once seemed like insurmountable obstacles became stepping stones. Marcus realized that discipline had transformed his pain into power, turning the chaos of his past into a roadmap for success. He was no longer a victim of circumstance. He was an active creator of his future. Through discipline, Marcus learned that growth is a continuous journey, not a destination. The habits he formed were not just about surviving, they were about thriving. His story was no longer about what had been lost, but about what he was building every day. The painful boy from the broken neighborhood was evolving into a man with purpose and vision, driven by the unshakable foundation that discipline had given him. The second chapter of his life was proof that while pain might be unavoidable, how we respond to it is our greatest choice. Marcus had chosen to rise. Years passed, and Marcus found himself standing at a crossroads he once thought unreachable. The young man who had battled despair and doubt was now a pillar of strength, built from the very pain that had once threatened to destroy him. His journey of discipline had transformed not only his circumstances, but also his identity. Marcus had become a man who understood that pain was not the enemy, it was the foundation on which he had built his resilience, purpose, and success. With a stable career as an entrepreneur, Marcus dedicated his life to giving back. He became a mentor for young people in neighborhoods like the one he grew up in, those who faced the same struggles and doubts he once knew so intimately. His story was no longer just about personal victory. It was about inspiring others to see their pain not as a wall, but as a gateway. Standing before a room full of eager faces, Marcus shared the hard truths he had learned, that life would never be easy, and pain would follow. But it was discipline that would carry them through. His message was simple but powerful: success is not a gift, it's earned through relentless effort, self-control, and unwavering commitment to growth. The discipline Marcus lived by was no longer a burden but a way of life. Every morning, he continued the routines that had reshaped him: early workouts, goal setting, reading, and reflection. These habits kept him grounded and reminded him of where he came from and the price he paid to arrive where he stood. Marcus never forgot the nights spent struggling alone, the doubt that gnawed at him, or the sacrifices he made. Those memories fueled his empathy and determination to create opportunities for others. He knew firsthand that the journey was difficult, but also that it was possible. Marcus's business thrived because it was built on values deeper than profit: discipline, integrity, and purpose. He used his platform to provide jobs and training programs for youth at risk, helping them discover their own strength through discipline. Watching these young people transform their lives, Marcus felt the same spark he once found in the mirror when he chose to fight back against his pain. This was the ultimate victory, turning his struggles into a source of hope and empowerment for others. But Marcus's growth wasn't only external. The discipline he cultivated taught him patience and humility. Success came with challenges, and not every day was filled with triumph. When setbacks occurred, he met them with calm and perspective rather than frustration. His pain had taught him that growth is not linear, it comes with highs and lows, but discipline keeps you moving forward regardless. He learned to celebrate small wins and to be kind to himself when things didn't go as planned. This balanced mindset was the hallmark of a man truly built to last. Reflecting on his journey, Marcus realized that discipline had become the invisible engine powering every aspect of his life. It had transformed pain from a heavy burden into a source of strength and motivation. The boy who once felt powerless now understood that the struggles he faced were not punishments, but training grounds. Each trial had prepared him for a life driven by purpose and passion. His pain was no longer something to hide, but something that made his story real and relatable. In the end, Marcus's message to the world was clear: pain is inevitable, but being built in pain and powered by discipline means choosing to rise every single day despite the hardships. It means refusing to be defined by your circumstances and instead using every challenge as a step forward. Marcus had become living proof that no matter how broken you feel, discipline can rebuild you stronger than ever. The legacy he wanted to leave wasn't about escaping pain, but about embracing it as a force for transformation. Because those who are built in pain and powered by discipline don't just survive, they thrive, lead, and inspire.